Councilman Weber joined us in the closed session. Mr. Attorney, would you give us an announcement from closed session?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Direction given to staff, no reportable action from closed session.
Thank you. Ms. Riggs, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please stand. Salute and pledge.
Thank you. Well done. I'd entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. So moved.
Second.
Roll, please.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next item is presentations and proclamations. Number one is certificate of appreciation to the City of Oroville from Butte County Public Health. Welcome. There you go. You're
There
on.
we are. Good afternoon, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the City Council, my name is Erin Cox. I'm the Division Director for Emergency Preparedness and Infectious Disease Control for the Butte County Department of Public Health. It's my honor to stand here before you today to extend Public Health's heartfelt recognition and gratitude to the City of Oroville for the outstanding collaboration during the recent Shigella outbreak. This acknowledgement of the remarkable partnership and support we received from the city and its leaders. When the outbreak first emerged, it presented a potential significant public health challenge. From the very beginning, the city's response was swift, coordinated, and comprehensive, demonstrating a profound commitment to the health and well-being of all residents. The department is grateful to the city officials and staff whose leadership and proactive measures were pivotal in our response efforts. The immediate actions to allocate resources, support public health initiatives, and communicate with the citizens were crucial in managing and mitigating the impact of the outbreak. Let this recognition serve as a reminder of our collective strength and inspire us to continue fostering strong partnerships and a proactive approach to public health challenges in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Very nice. We appreciate Butte County Mental Health very much. Thank you. Item number two is presentation State Route 162 Pedestrian, Bicyclist, Disabled Mobility and Safety Improvements Project.
Yes.
Mr. Mayo.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I have brought Mr. Moji Nawara from Ghirardelli. He's our construction manager. He's overseeing all the construction project or progress on the project, and he's here to give a very high-level look-down summary of where we're currently at with the project and some of the overview on it. And Mr. John from Lehman Construction is here as well, the contractor for the project. So if you have any questions for either one of these guys after the quick presentation and drone video, they're here to answer any of your questions.
Welcome, gentlemen. Looking forward to this.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Could we start the video very shortly? This is a drone video we took last week from the project, basically moving on Orodam Boulevard and then toward the Lower Wyandotte and Olive Highway. As you can see on the right side, some of the improvements. You may ask questions about the piecemealing. It's because we're still coordinating with PG&E to remove some of their assets. That's why you can see some kind of areas doesn't have sidewalk. And of course, the drone actually took some footages from the areas that were not actually improving, but because it was on the plan, I just asked the pilot to make sure that actually she's gonna keep everything into one basically video for the record. So just kind of add a few things. This project contains a lot of improvements, a storm drain, some asphalt work, sidewalk, curb and gutter, PG&E move, basically asset relocations, and some of the Caltrans added work, which we're gonna very briefly discuss about all of those. That's the Lower Wyandotte and where the school district is on the left side of the screen, which we have some sidewalk and some retaining curb to protect the poles. And right now we're going toward, just change the screen. In this area, we have a few storm drain catch basin constructions. There is some small, like 70 or 80 feet of sidewalk at certain areas. Okay, so could we start? Thank you again. So as our Public Works Director mentioned, my name is Moji Narvar. I am the resident engineer and construction manager for this project. And this is basically a screen I found online that shows Orodam Boulevard. Could we go next sheet, please?
We have a question. Can I ask it now, or do you want to wait till the end?
It's up to you, sir.
I can wait to the end.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So in this screen, this is basically showing where the project is located. Not all those blackened road basically contain the improvements. For example, if you're going toward the Orange Avenue, we don't have any improvement, but the engineer preferred to kind of put it in this sheet. And the drone actually moved exactly the same route that you were kind of seeing it. Next slide, please.
Let me ask a quick question. Can we go back to that slide? Over on the end of State Highway 162 near the bridge, there's a road being built there. What is that road? Or it's a path, I guess. It's a bike path?
The Wyandotte?
No.
Yes, down at the river, at Feather River.
Feather River,
Feather River, excuse
Those
me. Yeah,
are
I'm sorry.
bike lane improvements for access
Yeah.
down to the river off
Yeah.
this project. That's correct.
Yeah, that's not my project, actually. The road is not.
No, it's
just the bike.
a
the
bike path.
Oh, bike path is
Yeah.
mine, yes.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry,
All
I
right.
thought you said the road.
Well,
yeah.
I didn't know what it was, and I kept seeing the work being done. and
there's
I
a
wasn't
bike
sure.
path. There's a bike path at the
Yeah.
northwest corner of that SR 70 and SR 162. And we had a lot of actually utilities over there as well. Our contractor helped to kind of build that area. It's not completed 100%, but it's going to be complete very soon.
Well, I appreciate that, because I saw it and I didn't know what it was, and I have to admit,
It's a bike path.
yeah, bike path to carry people down to Riverbend Park and up to
Yes, correct.
162.
Correct,
Got it.
yes.
Thank you, sir.
Next slide, please. So this project started in April 15th. The construction phase of the project started at that date, and we're scheduled to finish by November 20th, 2024. If everything goes smoothly, our contractor estimates that we're probably going to finish the project earlier. However, we have some challenges, which we're going to discuss that basically in other slides. Next slide, please. So there are some key factors to basically we should to consider to finish the project to the best way. First one is cooperation with the public. We are in communication with basically the businesses when we are moving in front of them, and we're giving them notices to make sure that there is no issues. The second key factor is actually working with different agencies, as we are basically coordinating with different agencies, including Caltrans, PG&E, AT&T, Comcast, Sewer Commission, and also Feather River Sewer District. And of course, sometimes we're finding unknown factors that we have to find out who actually owns these obstacles. And of course, we're going to communicate with those as well. So another factor is basically foreseeing possible issues for the project, which our contractor, Layman Construction, and John is helping us a lot, because we're always a few steps ahead of what we are doing. And if we are seeing some issues, we actually coordinate with engineering team and other agencies to make sure we have a solution before we get there. So keeping the project basically budgets in check is very important, and we have some tools we're going to kind of explain in the next slide. Next slide, please. So this is basically keeping the project time in check. It's a slide that basically we took it from Caltrans. It's a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet. And on a daily basis, we're going to kind of report what activities are being done and what kind of conditions the weather was in those two kind of green areas you see on the dates are because when we had fire and the contractor couldn't work, we had to kind of avoid counting those days so the contractor doesn't lose any time from the overall window of the project. Next slide, please. So to keep the project budget in check, we have different spreadsheets like the sample we showed on the last screen, and we are actually monitoring the work happening at the sites. We have full-time field engineer and inspectors who are at the site. Inspector, I should say. Sometimes if I go there or other of my colleagues, then it's going to be more than one person. And basically, we go there and make sure everything is happening. On this bottom portion of this screen, you see two ratios. So 55 days passed. This is up to Friday of last week from 150 days of this project, and the ratio is 36.67%. And on the bottom one is the amount of money spent from the budget, which shows 37.25. So we can see that the two numbers are within 1%. That means that we're actually controlling the project. We're not basically wasting money or we're spending money very fast. Everything seems to be going forward with the time we have in hand. Next slide, please. So there are challenges in this project. As we just kind of saw very shortly in the drone videos, we have some kind of piecemealing, some stopping, some construction. Those are because we have PG&E assets in our improvement or in front of our improvement. And basically, we are in coordination with PG&E to move them. When they are moved, then we can actually move forward and construct the project. So we had some Caltrans added a scope of work when we were kind of working in that area. We found out about some boxes to be relocated. Caltrans asked us to relocate those. So we're actually working with them, and that was, to my opinion, some challenge because you have to kind of fit it inside the budget and also inside the time of the project. Unforeseen situations, weather, which I consider an act of God, so like fire, sometimes they delay the project, we have to consider those. And of course, ordering materials. I specifically put light poles because usually ordering light poles would take about 3 to 9 months, depends on the factory that we're ordering it from, and we only have 2 factories for the entire country. Next slide, please. So I'm open to any questions.
We have Councilman Thompson first in the queue.
Thank you. Yeah, that was the light pole, that, and in the scope of work that was presented to us, I saw, lights along the whole corridor as well as trees.
Mm-hmm.
So is that still the plan? So is lighting going to go along the whole corridor that's specified as well as trees?
So there are two projects, this one and also another one, Caltrans, is starting in January. So we are installing a lot of basically infrastructures for future light poles that are coming in January. For our project, we have a number of light poles for intersections, which we're going to install as a scope of this project we're handling. So basically, whatever we're doing is also relates to the Caltrans project coming in January. So we're basically putting the infrastructure like pole boxes, wiring, and things like that. And probably the plan actually shows future or use like letter F or something. Those are means that future light poles, but we're working on the infrastructure for all of those right now.
So the lighting along the whole corridor that's mentioned all the way over to Foothill?
Yes, most of those are going to be a part of Caltrans project, but for intersections, we're going to install them
I
in this
understand, okay.
project, yeah.
And trees as well, that's a future part of this phase or the future phase of this project? Not your part,
not in
obviously
this one, not
Right,
in-
not this phase, but future phases.
It should be in the future phases.
I'm not exactly clear on what if Caltrans is doing as far as landscaping improvements, but I have heard some talk about trees as well. I'll get some more clarity on that.
Thanks, yeah.
Just for the record, Caltrans plans are currently at about the 70 percentile. They haven't released them at all yet, so we honestly don't know what's coming.
Gotcha. Vice Mayor Smith is up next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, you may not be able to answer this completely, but I do see Brian Wilson here. So that beautiful bike trail that's being added as a feature to get down to Riverbend Park, that park is a day-use only park. And so I'm kind of curious about if there's any way to secure that in the evening. And I'm sure most of us have noticed an uptick in unhoused population, even taking up residency very close to that project. So I'm just kind of curious what that looks like when it's complete, as far as the security for that park.
So part of the scope of this project is only building the basically bike path. We don't have anything in our project to add to that area to secure it and make it safer. So I don't have any answer to that question.
So just to alleviate any concern, Lehman Construction is not going to leave an open hole down to the bottom. We're working with Public Works and we're working with Moji to either add a gate on this phase or add bollards, removable bollards, in case there needs to be emergency access. Worst case scenario, we could always just put a piece of K-rail across it for right now, because it's not going to be completed on the bottom end until the next phase of the project.
Okay, great. Thank you. So more to know.
Yeah. All right. Council, any more questions, Council? Do we have any cards on this at all?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you. Good
you.
presentation.
Thank you so much.
Love the video. All right. Next item is public communication, hearing of non-agenda items. Do we have any cards?
Yes, we do, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
We'll begin with the cameraman and follow that with Bill Spear.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. First, start off with Thompson Fire. Glad to see our city come together, pull resources, and it was not as bad as it could have been. I mean, it's not good anytime structures and families are displaced, but glad to see it was able to get under control. First fire for July I've ever had personally where not a single firework I heard, at least in my area, go off. So it's kind of new experience to me from being down south, where it becomes World War II, World War I, or whatever war you think it sounds like that time of year. My main story on that was the O. The fire did reach the O. I went out and took some pictures of it. It did seemed a little smoke, I mean, it's in a fire, it's going to have some dirt and soot on it, but still white and shining. And now the fire will, it's gone through there, cleansed the dead. It'll be nice and green up there, so hopefully it'll be a much more majestic view for our city. There's some good that comes from tragedy. Did have a little confusion with the MLEs. I know I don't have my more formal looking press pass on tonight. I kind of had the one I carry in my wallet, my little undercover flipper, if you will, and they were a little confused. Action News Now was there. I believe the same reporter was here earlier, and I wanted to go to the same area that they were, and they're like, well, can you go over there? I politely declined, and they're like, well, just go down there, and if they turn you back, they turn you back. And I wasn't expecting to be turned back, and especially when I saw Jess there, he knows I'm engaged in my constitutional rights, and shook his hand, saw him there on the front lines. So, good that worked out. But if we can maybe get some little training of the MLEs about press passes and things that, not everybody shows up in fancy cars that says Action News Now. Sometimes they can just get their friend or family member to give them a ride, just get some few photos, if you will. And the rest of my time, the Big Boy Train. It was good to see such a historic piece of history come into our town. Just a couple things, not to put a frown on the event, but there could have been a little bit better traffic control. Streets were pretty clogged, especially when I saw the ambulance. There's a couple times it looked like the ambulance showed up. They had to make some calls, so it was a little hard for them to get through. Almost out of time, so I'll scratch one item. Same kind of MLEs, a little over-zealous about distance and whatnot, but the main thing my remaining time is the drones that were there. I don't have a problem filming with drones, but people were getting a little close in between of each other, didn't want to see a mid-air collision that fall down and hit somebody. I know there's rules about flying over people. I know one guy's thing got so hot that he lost visual for a minute. So just some rules to look in possibly future events. Not to bash on filming with drones, but because of safety. It can happen with helicopters, it can happen with drones. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Spear.
verse of the day is Romans 10:13. For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. So we had the fire, and when we have incidents like that, everyone's praying more than usual. At least they should be. But God had protected us, I believe. The fire could have came right down through our city. And so I just want to thank God for his protection in the fire. Also, as the political atmosphere has been heating up also, I want to thank God for protecting former President Trump. It could have caused, besides him being dead, big turmoil in our country, and it could have been a lot worse. And so I'm just extremely grateful and thankful. So I'm going to pray. Father, we thank you for the verse of the day, that if we call on you, all who call on you will be saved. And we call on today on the name of Jesus, and we thank you for what you've already done. We thank you for protecting our city, Lord. The wind could have changed and it would have went right through, but I believe that you heard our prayers and that you protected and encouraged and strengthened. I thank you for all the firefighters on the front lines. Lord, we thank you for the Nazarene Church, who opened their doors and was an evacuation center, bringing comfort to those in need. Thank you for the Secret Service and them jumping out and putting their lives to protect the president. We pray for our country, that as it gets closer to the election, that we would still realize that we're all one country and that we all need each other and that we all want the best for our country. Father, we pray that you continue to bless our city council, continue to give them wisdom, heavenly wisdom, continue to bring provision for our city. Thank you for the work that's going on Ore Dam and the presentation. Thank you for the streets being fixed and you bringing the provision, you bringing the wisdom. Thank you for our rescue mission and the Hope Center and all those who serve. We love you. We praise you. We give you all the glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. Up next, we have Brian Williams.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, staff. Thank you for taking the moment to listen to me. I'm here to report on a few things I've seen on various walks I've taken along the Feather River. From what I see, the goats are doing a great job. They did get pulled off during the fire, and I'm proud to report they're back on the levee, finishing up the job. I am a little concerned about the goats and the levee. After walking the levee, after the goats had finished, there is, I would call, a massive amount of erosion being caused by the goats. And we already have a levee that is in disrepair, and we need a lot of effort to be looked at the levee. And yes, the goats work really well, but when you have 100 goats, that's 400 legs destroying hillsides. And we have waves like steps on the hillsides of the levee now from the goats. So I don't know if there is another option. I know weed killer is not a good option, but just something to consider. As we all know, we didn't get to do our city council meeting 2 weeks ago, but the Grants Pass case was decided. And I would like to know what the city is doing to help reclaim the public spaces for the law-abiding citizens who are afraid to use them right now. And I don't know if Jess or anybody in the city or staff has any direction on what this city's going to take moving forward. I was just on Saturday, took a walk on the levee, and I found an unattended fire down at the water line, smoldering with plastic, unattended. Massive, just burning. And I walked by it. I was like, that's not good. And I decided not to call because I just thought that it was going to go out. But I walked 5 more minutes, and I was walking back down the levee in the town, and I smelled the smell in the town, so I said, I have to call. Fire department shows up. Nobody's still there. And so, again, we have all these issues, and now we actually have a tool that can help push these guys or females in to help. I don't know what we can do, but it's not working. While I was waiting for the firemen to show up at that fire, maybe this is something for you, Fred, where our Portland Loo is, we have that big water valve that has the backflow check valve on it we have homeless people opening the keys and taking showers in them. And I have video of it if anybody wants to see it. My final thing, and I know I've gone over this for 4 years now, the cat feeding has to stop. 50 pounds a day, every single day, without the care of any homeowner nearby. These people, they're not a nonprofit. They don't have good methods. They come and pour cat food out on the ground and they leave. When you have a managed cat feeding station, the people come, they put the food out, they wait. When they're done, they take the food with them. So what's happened to me in the last 2 weeks, my dogs have been skunked at 4 o'clock in the afternoon twice. And why? Because the skunks are eating the food. And I officially now have video proof of the skunks eating the cat food on city property, and I need the city to do something to stop this issue. I need 3 more seconds. Officer McGrath of the SPCA, I've been reaching out to him for a month. 2 days a week, I go and leave him notices. He knows, so the last time I called, he told me, I know your problem. I didn't get to talk to him, I got screamed. I know your problem. I'm too busy. I'll call you when I can. I had new information that he hadn't had, and he still hasn't called me back in 3 weeks. So I don't know who else to reach out to. I feel that I go and try to put myself in front of the appropriate people to solve the problems, and they're not getting solved. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you,
I'm
sir.
available for comment if anybody has.
Thank you, sir.
That's all I have for submitted public comment, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead. Oh, that's it. Okay. Vice Mayor Smith.
Yeah, I just want to briefly comment to that. I think that there is some work potentially at some future point to look at that concern with the cats, because that potentially goes into fish and wildlife with feeding, the wildlife, that type of thing, and that's a real concern. I think I get it. I just don't want to have a back and forth, but I agree with the concern, and that is a question I've personally been inquiring about, and so I think that you will see some future action at some point, and so that would be something I would like. I know we're not at that point, but to put that on as a council item.
I agree.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilman Weber.
Yes, thank you. So, Brian, to the point about the grants pass decision, I've already spoke with Vice Mayor Smith and Councilmember Johnstone about this, and I know that the other we're bound by how many people I can speak to. So, you know what I mean? So now that because I was actually going to talk about this in a minute about, raising that, and I've had a conversation with the city administrator and the city attorney too about like what kind of language the grants pass has in it. It survived the scrutiny to the Supreme Court now, and like what we could do to adopt some stuff and what the line of action would be. So we're coming up, we're formulating, and like I said, I could only talk to so many on here and outside of here. So, I know there's an appetite. I think there's an appetite anyway for the rest of us to kind of pursue that and look at it like, what is it, how do we pursue that and make sense of it? Because we definitely want to. Like, I was down at Bedrock Park today, and, there's, you know what's going on. There's a lot of very undesirable activity. And so, and I want to return our levees and our parks and everything to a sense of normalcy for for us, for my kids. Because, I live right there too. I'm 1 block away from the levee and walk it a lot. So I see too, so I want to see that too. So we're going to definitely pursue what that looks like, to come with a really good plan to initiate that. Because we're all watching that closely, Brian, just like you are. And I'm super thankful that the Supreme Court made that decision.
I'm not looking for an answer today. I'm hoping what you just said is that there is going to show something for our citizens.
And that's why I chimed in now. I wanted to let you know the conversation's already starting. It's okay. All right.
All right. Any other cards? No? Next item is council announcements and reports. Any council announcements, please? Councilman Thompson.
I just want to personally thank CAL FIRE and our guys for their work at mitigating the Thompson fire. It could have been a lot worse. And just talking with the few that I know, there were some calls that were made early on, some foresight that brought in some the heavy hitting air force and whatnot that just help really making a bad situation not be as bad as it could have been. So I'm just grateful and want to thank our fire responders, all the fire departments that helped save our town. They did a great job.
Thank you. Councilman Weber.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I also wanted to piggyback off that too, because I mean, you can't disqualify or discredit the level of commitment that we've seen from all the responding agencies, and there's so many agencies that responded. I'm not gonna say one because I know I'll miss some, but all the agencies, including our own Public Works, which I was watching man stations at street closures and not being talked to very nicely, but they still stood their post. And the level of commitment that these agencies displayed in those unbelievable and extreme conditions of a canyon fire and it climbing straight up into Kelly Ridge like that, and then watch how they were able to fight and combat it, where they threaded the needle of the fire in between the houses, and then it stopped. And I'm telling you what, it stopped right on the edge of thousands of homes. And this could have been catastrophic. So really, kudos. And, the American Red Cross and the Church of the Nazarene really did a fantastic job out there. Jordan Crossing Ministries stepped up big time. Kingdom Table, which John Zilich is a part of, was there as well. They did a fantastic job. The Orville Community Development Coalition, we served like 700 meals that day in total, through the collaborative effort of the OPD, Jess, Chief Darnell, and Chief Legrone helped out with about 400 meals that were donated by Panda Express. And Walmart stepped up and donated enough food to feed 300 people. It was just, collaboratively, to watch the fire being fought on the Hill and then to watch the effort down in the community, it really gave me a great sense of pride in who we are. And out of tragedy comes the triumph. And that's exactly what we did as a community. So bravo to every agency and bravo to all the people that helped out.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, sir. Councilman, or Vice Mayor Smith, excuse me.
Yeah. I sit on the Vector Control Board, and we were just so proud of Butte County, no West Nile, until the other day. So, and just a reminder, make sure you're keeping those, breeding grounds, dumped, some old pools, or I think most of us are pretty familiar with how to do that, but just bringing that to everyone's attention, we still need to be vigilant. Thank you.
Councilman Goodson, go ahead.
I know I was hesitant. This is very delicate, so I'm going to try and put this as discreetly as possible. But we all applaud the tremendous efforts that kept our city safe and surrounding communities. There's not a price that you can pay on your safety. And so with that being said, we have election coming up in November. There will be a measure on the ballot, and so just be mindful of that. I'm not going to say what measure, but I think we all know. Be mindful of CAL FIRE and all the law enforcement and what it takes to run a city and a county. So be mindful of that when you cast your vote.
Anyone else? Looks like the clear. I'm going to make a quick moment before we get to staff. We have a letter in our packet from the Pioneer School District up in Berry Creek, and they're informing us of rate increase to that school district. And I got to make a comment about that, because when they lost their school, the insurance is only paid a very small percentage of the replacement value. So if anything was valuable, and I know most of you don't live at Berry Creek, but we have property and we have members up there, they were devastated by the fire, and it's really tough for that school district to really persevere through the process. So I'm generally not one for new rates and increases in costs, but this district does need it, and I know the superintendent very well, and she's really struggling to keep those kids have a great small school experience up there. So just want to make that comment about that particular thing, because we have the letter in our packet. Councilman Weber.
Yeah, real quick, I just need to rectify a wrong I just did. I did not recognize Councilmember Johnstone in her efforts to help that day as well. When we were, I feel terrible that I didn't. I'm sorry.
I think that's fair, and one of the things that happens in the background of the city, and all the councilmen know this, and all the councilmen, we're all doing a lot of things with staff and phone calls, and I think the first step that was done is we made a declaration of disaster pretty much early on, and that was a good point to be made. And we jumped on it. We asked the community not to use Safe and Sane fireworks, and I got to tell you, it happened. It worked. I mean, I was very pleasantly surprised. I didn't think it was going to do that well. So it's something to make a clear recognition for everyone that works in the background. You don't see all the late night phone calls and the buzzes that we all get, but it all happens with this group up here, and concerns get forwarded to staff, and staff brings back and forth. And as
indeed.
Councilman Weber said, Public Works was out right in the middle of the night, standing there watch on all the road closures. That's tough. That's tough to tell people not to go home. But we had pretty good response to that, so it's a plus for the community. And not that we're well experienced with this kind of activity, it's still a tough thing to say, don't go home to your home. Yeah, that's tough. All right, staff.
I have an update. Again, just to bounce off of Ms. Goodson's election update, I wanted to let all of you guys know that the period for pulling your nomination paperwork is open. I am requesting that if you are interested in running for office, that you do set up an appointment time with me, because it does take about an hour to go over all of that. However, my regular office hours are going to be Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5, and then Friday from 8 to 12 as well.
Thank you.
I have a few updates. First, I want to piggyback on what many of you already said, just thanks to the city staff, the fire department, the police department, Public Works. I mean, and kudos again for bringing all those resources for the Thompson fire. But even the week before that, the Apache fire, many don't know this, but I think we got a call, I think at 2 a.m, and Public Works responded that night, in the middle of the night. And just kudos to those guys. It's helping out. And we've had about 4 or 5 fires in, I think, a 10-day period. And hopefully we're done with those for this season. Fingers crossed. And also thanks to, the big boy train came through last week. We had a call with them the 2 days before they arrived, and I think they said the largest crowd they'd seen was 70, I think, or maybe 100.
That's correct, up to us.
So kudos to, again, for setting up the safety measures, and needless to say, they were shocked to see over 1,000 people, and Oroville did proud and came to support that, and it was a sight to see. So
Yeah, very cool.
quick update on a heat wave. It continues to be here. I mean, we had a little reprieve the last few days where it's been around 100 or a little less than 100, and it's getting in the 60s in the evenings, but it's coming right back, I think, on Thursday. Just want to let everyone know in the community know the city does contract with the rescue mission for a cooling center over at the rescue mission. And that site is on Lincoln, 4250 Lincoln Boulevard. And we had a meeting Friday. Okay, yeah, it was Friday. I was gonna say, God, was that yesterday? It's Friday. And they're also gonna provide some services. We've heard some concerns that there might be some needs here on this side of town, more the northern portion of Oroville. So they're gonna open their doors at the Open Door Church, which is 2555 Baldwin. And we're gonna see if there is a need to provide similar services for those on days when we have extended days that are over 100 degrees. So I'll report back to everybody on that, but I believe they're planning on opening on Thursday, but they'll be pushing out some information. We'll share it on social media as well, so we can get that information out. And lastly, I just wanted to provide an update on the convention center. I know the council directed staff to work with the YMCA and Feather River Rec and Park District, a number of months ago, and we have been working on this matter. We've had some great conversations with both the YMCA and Feather River, and I'm happy to say we'll very likely be bringing back an agreement here at probably the first meeting in August, that they'll coexist, I guess is the right word, I guess. Right now, obviously, the YMCA is the primary there, and they provide services in the morning, and I believe they're closed a lot in the afternoon, but then they also do the rental of the facility. It's very likely that we're looking at, again, we're working out the details, but the Feather River and the Y are going to coexist there and both continue to provide services for the community. And again, we're very optimistic for like a win-win-win, where it's going to be great for the community and great for both those organizations. And I can't thank both of them enough. We've had multiple meetings, very open-minded, trying to find solutions that meet everyone's needs. So more to come on that in the near future. And I think that's all I have.
We had a question for Vice Mayor Smith. It's now the time for your question.
I just wanted to make one brief comment. During the fire, I think that just goes without saying, CAL FIRE needed all hands on deck to deal with the fire. And so we, this is obvious that the right thing to do was to suspend the 4th of July show. But just so that the public's aware, we do have a $20,000 show in the bank. And so we're certainly open to some input as to when we might take advantage of that. Just at the Chamber of Commerce, you can drop your comments off and let me know what you think.
Yeah, and then just to piggyback on that, we've had some internal discussions on bringing an item back before the council just to talk about a number of things having to do with obviously the temporary ban on fireworks. Obviously, there's a lot of folks that purchase fireworks, and again, anyways, we'll be agendizing a discussion on how do we want to proceed in the future, and maybe looking at would New Year's Eve be a great way to set these off. So, anyways, more to come. Something will be coming in the next probably 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay. Rest of the staff, Amy.
Yes, if you might have noticed, I had a handout that I put at each of your guys' spot, and that is just an update from the last meeting when the Housing Authority was here regarding residency and vacancies and also waiting lists. So I just wanted to provide that for your information.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have an update in the finance department.
Oh, okay.
if that's-
Go ahead.
It's okay to go next.
Ruth.
Oh, you, Ruth.
Good. We had a major accomplishment this week in the finance department. We did our first payroll in new software. So this is after 2 years of trying to implement another software that failed, and council was allowing us to try a different software. We did it in 6 months, and that is with 2 positions down. So I'm very, very proud of staff for getting this done, and we were celebrating a lot getting
Yeah,
that payroll
that's cool.
out. So one little difference in this one is it doesn't create vouchers for the employees. Now they have to go to the access center to see their pay stubs. So that was just one difference. It doesn't do the email voucher thing anymore, but very proud of that. We finished our first year in our finance software, had another training day just to learn how to close it, and it still feels new, even though it's been a year, but we're still doing major milestones. And the auditors are coming for 3 days this week, and so getting them their reports was a challenge, because it's like, oh, this doesn't have what we need. So everything is getting done and starting to get smooth, but we did have somebody start last week, and we are having 2 more interviews on Monday, so hopefully we'll be fully staffed soon.
Good. This side of the aisle. Anybody else? Go ahead, Fred. You're about ready to jump out of your seat. I'm ready to go.
Mine's kind of long-winded, guys, so it's been a while since we did a little bit of a debrief. So I'll start with our brand-new facilities curator, Miss Hannah Thompson, and she's
All right.
going into her first, well, it's about a week and a half, and I just wanted to introduce her to council.
Welcome, Hannah.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Hannah comes from the Crocker Museum in Sacramento and has a great skill set, so we're real happy to have her, so.
Welcome aboard.
Still
Welcome.
drinking from a fire hydrant.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of do the round the robin type thing of where we're at with everything. With the airport, last month or so, we had about 1,237 takeoff and landings again. We sold about 150 gallons of fuel, totaling about $35,000. 36,000 gallons of low lead was sold, and almost 2,000 gallons of Jet A. I believe we sold some fuel during the fire, but most of the helicopters at the helibase bring their own tenders, so there wasn't so much of an opportunity there.
Right.
Just to let you folks know. We did have 3 helicopters staged out there at the last count I've had at the helibase. To build on what you guys said about all the heroic firefighting operations, thank you guys. Public Works, we did have quite a bit of a commitment out there. We had about 13 folks for 3 days, 24 hours straight, and we almost came in about 500 hours combined with all of our work out there doing the road closures. And 4 of those folks were in mandatory evacuations, and a couple of folks didn't know if they had a house, and they still came to work and worked through those conditions. And that says a lot about the folks we have here. Where I was at the courtyard pulling in, some of our staff were pulling in with their trailers, with their dogs, to park, to jump back in their trucks, to go out to do the evacuation closures. It says a lot to my team, and I commend them for their efforts on that. So, moving along, our mechanic shop, I'm going to add a few new comments here so we can kind of have a better picture of what Public Works is doing. With our 2 mechanics, we serviced 46 vehicles last month. 19 of them were police cars, 21 of them were Public Works and sewer vehicles, and 2 code enforcement vehicles were taken care of. We also got new vehicle lift columns, and they got the training on those, which will be going over to our new corp yard, hopefully very soon. Sewer division, during all the fires and everything else, 4th of July, we still cleaned 40,000 feet of sewer main and cambered about 16,000 feet of our sewer main, and handled almost 200 USA tickets all during that same piece. Also, our street department, who's been very, very busy, they've been working in the middle of the seat with this new mastic material. They actually did transfer it over to work graveyard. That's why when the Apache fire broke out and they needed resources, we were actually able to respond very quickly because they're already out there. We've used all of the material that you guys gave us money to purchase. That was 95 pallets. It's all out on the streets now. It's all over town. And we have a very good test bed, so it'll be great to see how it holds up over the summer heat going into the winter. And after this winter coming up, we're gonna have a real good idea how good of material this is. Right now, initial, it's very exciting. It's not exactly pretty, but the roads ride a lot better. We did more work out on Washington Avenue today to get rid of some of those potholes and that type of thing. Let's see. I think that might be about it for now. I have a few other little add-ons I would like to mention. You guys may have noticed over by Mugshots at the city parking lot, we have the standard foundations are now poured, and we're going to have 2 new streetlights over there, partially lighting up over Montgomery near the Union to illuminate that and to illuminate the parking lot from the levee all the way out to the street, which is a new addition. It's going to be a very nice improvement for us out there. The Liberty Pole inspection, we were talking about the Liberty Pole with the flag, concerns over the age of the pole with the flag on it. I confirmed just before we came in, our inspector is going to be here on the 25th, which is a week from Thursday. He's going to do an inspection. We're going to get a good idea how healthy that pole is. So we'll go from there. And last but not least, well, 2 from not least, Nelson Avenue Road, yay. It's getting done this weekend.
Yeah.
It's this weekend, the hard closure of the freeway off-ramps take place around 8 o'clock Friday night, and they'll open back up Sunday night around 8 p.m. Construction did started a beginning phase today. They demoed the ADA corner on the west corner of 4th Street, and I believe that got poured back today. So we have a new corner already, and the asphalt's coming this weekend. And last but not least, Trover will be coming in, presumably the first council meeting in August to divulge some of the preliminary drawings that we've been working on for the new corporation yard, so you guys can get an idea where we're actually at. I want to do a brief on that, but they're not exactly ready for their preliminary drawings, and I'll have them do a nice presentation for you guys so you can see what's going on at the corp yard.
Right.
And I think that's all I have. Thanks.
Councilman Riggs has a question.
Thank you. It's more of a statement that you named off a number of achievements and current projects in the works. And I wanted to recognize that tomorrow is your 1-year anniversary at the city. And so thank you for your hard work with us.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Also, how about the employee that helped out SCORE with the manhole plate?
Yes, so thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the prompt. Now, I've heard a little bit more of the story. Teresa did find a vault lid that has failed on Feather River on her day off, and she stopped, created her own road traffic control to keep traffic from driving into the vault. She called SCORE. They came out to help assist, and Amanda from the sewer department actually came out, helped set this plate and get the roadway fixed. And it turned into this whole team effort with folks that were not at work. They were on their time off, and came across a significant issue out there in the sewer system. Stopped traffic and got supplies and people coming, and very much commended. And SCORE was very thankful for Amanda and Teresa coming out and doing it.
Well,
they rocked. They kicked butt out there.
And
I'm
SCORE was
proud of
very
them.
appreciative of it. In fact, they didn't have a plate to cover that temporarily, so they had to borrow one from Thermoleto, which brought the plate out too. So you had all the agencies involved in that. So it's very cool to see our employees take up and notice and say, if we see something, we're going to say something, and we're going to do something.
That's right.
Very cool.
Yeah, the team's been wonderful these last, we've been through a lot. It started with the Apache fire, and they've just been very solid and doing the citizens a great job. So, just want to say that. Thanks.
Who's next? Fred
I have something.
or Patrick?
So in the fires, I embedded as liaison in the EOC, and I was so impressed with the fire, all the crews that come in from all over the state. And every morning we go down to get the morning briefing, and there's 150 or so trucks from all over the state lined up perfectly clean, shiny, guys out there wiping the windows down, all dressed neatly, and then getting ready to go out and then fight fires all day. It was kind of moving, and it was just a really impressive operation to see their dedication and the tightness of their operation. It's really, and I know that you know that well, but it was, I've been in the EOC before and for other things, but I'd never seen that before. It was really impressive. Last week was the 5th session of Civic 101, and Amy killed it. She did. It ended up being the longest one so far. Who would have known that people would be so engaged with housing? But people they had questions. They were really engaged, and we went almost 2 hours. That's the longest session yet. So, Amy did a great job.
She did.
So.
All right,
That's
thank
it.
you, Patrick. Ron? Good? Jess? Good, sir. Good? All right. We'll move on then. Thank you all. Good reports. Nice to hear what's going on. There's so much that it's, sometimes we have to get it compressed into it, but we want to get it to the you folks here at our meeting so you can see what's going on and not put that at the tail end of the meeting. So it takes a little time, but at the same time, you're pretty well educated about what's going on.
I get one more here.
Oh, Councilman Riggs.
I just wanted to ask Mr. Belser and ensure that the public knew and make sure I'm accurate in this belief. You provide us with a monthly report. Is that available on your guys' on the website for code enforcement, or it is? So I really recommend, especially for all of us who are so inclined and interested in code enforcement, to review that monthly report and see the amount of activity that your department does. And thank you again for that.
Well, let's add to that, too. I think there was at least 2 congratulations to getting work done. Placer Lane, and the other one was
A voicemail.
Table Mountain. Yeah.
No.
So the public is also responding to this, so there's a lot of work being done. It's a good thing. All right, we'll move on to consent calendar. I'll entertain a motion, or if anyone have any consent items they'd like to pull?
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
Please call the roll. Do we have any cards on any consent items? Before we call the roll?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Call the roll, please.
Consent agenda passed unanimously.
Thank you. Should we do the public hearing now? All right. We'll call the meeting to order for public hearing at, looks like almost 5:30. Public hearing 2024 Community Development Block Grant Application. Looks like Amy.
Good evening, Mayor Pittman and council members. The State Office of Housing and Community Development has indicated that they will be releasing their 2024 Community Development Block Grant NOFA at the end of this month. Once the NOFA is issued, there will be a 30-day review period. Once that 30-day period ends, the application will open for approximately 60 days. The over-the-counter applications are first come, first serve, and while the competitive applications won't be reviewed until the end of the period has ended. So the day that it opens, we need to have our OTC applications submitted, or we will not be able to be funded. Please keep in mind that this presentation is based on what HCD has told us will be in the NOFA. Like last year, there's a possibility it could change prior to the release. I'm not going to duplicate the last NOFA presentation, but I will quickly highlight the staff recommendations. All eligible activities must benefit the low and moderate income persons, or aid in the prevention of eliminations of slum and blight, or meet the need of a particular urgency. The 2024 NOFA is expected to be released with approximately $30 million in federal funds for the following categories: 1 OTC project plus 1 OTC program plus 1 competitive, or 1 OTC project, 2 competitive, or 1 OTC program and 2 competitive. Each eligible jurisdiction can apply for up to $3.6 million. The over-the-counter limit for a project is $3.3 million. The over-the-counter limit for a program is $1.5 million. And competitive applications, which are planning technical assistant grants and public services, are a maximum of $300,000. At the last council meeting, staff made a recommendation to submit 1 OTC application to purchase an aerial ladder truck and a fire engine for a total of $3.1 million. And then to submit 2 competitive planning technical assistant grants for Myers Streetscape Project and the Southside Drainage Master Planning Project for a total of $264,486. General administration is 7% of the total jurisdiction ask, and then that is $3.6 million. We are also requesting to submit 1 program income-only application for first-time homebuyer or homeownership assistance up to $1.5 million. And that is all, if you had any questions.
Council, questions? See, do we have any cards on this item? As a public hearing?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we do. We have one from Anastasia Snyder.
Welcome, Anastasia. Anastasia, excuse me.
But that sounded military.
Thank you, Council, for the opportunity to speak with you. I'll just get right to the point. I'm here tonight to ask you to include Catalyst in the CDBG application specifically related to public services, as you had originally intended to in last June. These funds are one of the primary sources of funds to support the advocate staff who provide a range of services to survivors of domestic violence and now sexual assault, as we are now recognized by the state as the official provider of sexual assault services for Butte County. While we braid these CDB funds with other sources, without these specific funds, we're at risk of losing what we, all of us here, have built in Oroville. As the only comprehensive domestic violence and sexual assault service provider in Butte County, with the main service office located nearly 30 miles away in Chico, there would be no immediate access to critical support services if we are forced to reduce our hours and support or quite possibly close our Oroville Drop-In Center altogether. We are aware that the vast majority of our participants live significantly below the poverty level, and many do not own vehicles to easily make the trip to Chico. The primary mode of transportation for our participants is the regional bus line, and each one-way trip between the 2 transit centers is a minimum of 50 minutes. This could be a significant, and not could be, it will be a significant barrier for seeking help, for survivors to seek help. As we outlined in our original application, more and more survivors are coming to our agency with the increasing needs, and including housing, crisis legal supports, and therapy. Having adequate staff time to help participants move through crisis and towards stabilization is key success. Having access to an adequately staffed drop-in center is critical. I was going to share data with you, but I'm running out of time. So I wanted to share a little bit of a survivor I actually personally got to help. I know firsthand how important it is to have services right here in the community. In the short time we have been providing sexual assault services, about a month ago when I was on call, I responded to the hospital for a sexual assault forensic exam for a survivor who lives in Oroville. The hospital was Enloe Health. She had been assaulted the night before, but had to wait to get an exam. She was in the same clothes, she was tired, and she was so brave as she was being interviewed and going through the physically invasive exam. But I was grateful that she had come to Chico for the exam. And I was even more grateful that I could tell her that she could get follow-up support right here in Oroville. She was grateful as well, and I know that she did call for those services. Since the end of our most recent contract in February 2024, The only reason we have been able to provide all these services is because we have been using precious unrestricted dollars to bridge the gap between our last CDB application, which ended now.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We have a question from Vice Mayor Smith.
Yeah, I actually brought, when this came up, the previous council meeting, because this is, I believe, our second hearing on this, I actually brought your agency up. I was concerned about the very thing that you're raising at this point. So, question for Amy, is there time, and this would be for the greater council, whether or not we have an appetite, and what would we have to then bump if we were to consider this?
There is a little bit of time because the application will not open until the 1st of September, because the 30-day reviewing period happens as soon as the NOFA opens. We won't be able to do anything in that period of time. If you do decide to fund Catalyst, then you would need to exclude one of the other applications, any one of the three, and then it also would need to fall in under how much you were going to fund per application. So right now we have 300,000 approximately set aside for the studies. One of them is 164 approximately, and the other one was 100,000. So you could do one of those, and that amount would be, or you could, I mean, you guys, it's up to you.
So, just for historical, and I wish I'd gone back to do a little bit more reading so I could be a little bit more elaborative on it. But there was several years ago, there was a study done on some level. There was some elevation renderings for the Myers Street that was done for a project to, elevate that, to reimagine it. That, and I think, again, I'm just guessing, there was significant dollars. And I was going to throw a number out there, but I'm going to refrain from doing that. And that project never happened. So my concern with a project of that nature, because this is just simply looking at what that might cost. It's actually not a project where you're actually seeing a finished product. It's just looking at it.
Right.
So we're going to spend significant dollars again to look at the same place again, and will the results be the same? It's just I think it's a fair question. However, the drainage project, I think, is worthwhile. That has to happen. There's a significant flooding. That's public safety. I think that needs to happen. So if I were to suggest a project to be, reevaluated in light of this need that's real, because we're talking about public safety, we're talking about people's lives on the line, I would be in favor of considering Catalyst and bumping, unless that particular project for Myers, unless there's some overwhelming dynamic to that project that I'm not seeing or I'm not aware of. But again, just citing the history, the fact that it's been looked at before, we've spent money with the actual no real project to speak for it. So that's what I'm looking at, and that's what I'm thinking at this moment.
I would agree with Eric, if possible.
Okay. Anyone else want to talk? I'll mention too, as the last RDA director that sat on, we did do a considerable project work for Myers Street on the idea of working Myers Street to Mesa. And I know there's about $250,000 spent on a technical design for that improvement. I'm sure staff may not even know that exists because I've just got the gray hair around. I'd like to see a comparison of what this need is and if that project that was already done and put together could fill in for this thing. Because I want to see all the work being done, but I'm thinking that we might check our records to see if that project, and I know probably the only anybody sees around here is there's a visual drawing that was hanging on the wall before. But beyond that, we actually did the engineering, the drainage work, and everything necessary to do the work along Myers Street, and especially the retail section there, and actually create a very nice area, which I would love to see done. I don't know if that work is enough to satisfy what's being proposed here. Part of that was being delayed because the PG&E was supposed to put the poles underground, which we're sitting on waiting. What's that project? What's the number for that?
The Rule 28.
Rule 28 money, and we were waiting on them to get that done, and then the state took away the RDAs, so it's kind of a cluster of things. But I'd like to review that to see if the number 3 item here is satisfied by the prior work done. And I'm just saying because none of you guys were around when that was all done, so I certainly understand that. It's just the old timers like me that remember that work being done, and we met with, yeah.
Where are those specs?
That's what I'm saying, that we might take a look at that as satisfaction of that particular
They were
project.
taken down a couple of years
And we
ago.
can certainly do that. And just real quick, just timing wise, which might piggyback well with this. I mean, the Rule 28 program, we're
Oh, yeah.
currently working, the program is terminating, so it's sunsetting, but there are dollars that are allocated both still for that project, and we're advocating, there's other agencies that have dollars available, but they don't have eligible projects, so we're advocating to get those dollars to help pay for that project, because the funding that was provided covers about 25% of the total cost. So, and there is some stuff going on behind the scenes to try to recoup or try to attain more funding for that project to underground all the utilities there.
All right. Can we put it on hold and deal with it next meeting?
You know, if it's the council's wishes to make the change, we can actually do that tonight. We can make it,
Okay.
you can approve the resolution with that one modification if that's the council's desires.
I would like to ask Anastasia, we're talking about the third one, which is for $100,000. Is that, I mean, would you be able to, I mean, obviously nothing, it's better than nothing, but.
That is correct.
Yeah.
As many of you might have seen, there is an incredible cut to our budget and to services across from the federal level. It's trickling down to the state. So yes, 100,000 would be very much appreciated consideration.
Councilman Riggs is on the queue.
Thank you. My concern was, no offense, Mayor Pittman, if the plan is many years old, as you've stated it was, and that you were the only one around when it came about.
It's antiquated.
Quite frankly, there may also be some codes and standards that were also not around when it was created. And so, although we have maybe a basis, that we'll have additional costs incurred for bringing them up to present code.
So noted. I'm just saying
Okay.
that a lot of prior work was done. And the big issue was the engineering to not let the water flood at least 3 businesses. Because whenever it rained there, they had to sandbag their businesses. And that's where the drainage issue was. Plus, it'll be a somewhat of a disservice to all our auto body shops because those power poles that are in that parking lot created enormous amounts of work for all our auto body shops because everybody in town hit those poles. And you see they got huge barricades around. So, it's kind of a little dance to go around. So, but I do know there was a considerable amount of work done and the vision of that was really very nice.
And I think a lot of it stems, or it's waiting for the utilities that issue to be addressed. And it's been in the hopper, I think, since 2012.
I thought it was 2010.
It's been a long time.
Yeah,
So I do want the council to know that we should have some resolution by the end of this calendar year. This
On the
PG&E is stating that they're going to reallocate those credits that are out there right now. And again, we are advocating hard for more credits. So hopefully we'll have a better idea of how many credits we have and how much the project costs and what that gap is. So hopefully we can get that thing done soon.
For this, do we need a motion?
Yes, we do.
Entertain a motion.
So I need to know what is that motion?
For item number 3, the 100,000 to Catalyst instead of the technical.
We'd have to make that specific.
So approve the resolution with one modification, swapping out the Myers Streetscape project.
So we're going to swap that out prior to even looking at a comparison of what that looks like?
If that's the council's wishes. And I will say this, I mean, the Rule 28 dollars, we're not going to until the end of this calendar year. And so the timing on this is not
We have time.
critical. We have time. We have to, if we want to try to add, we'll know those dollar figures in this calendar year, and maybe we can try to get that one done in the next year in the CDBG application. So, I mean, the timing could work out.
And on the other side of it, the state of California changing the rules on this money is part of our major problem here, because we used to allocate at least 3 in the past, and now we're down
Yeah.
to almost none, so
I
it's a
do
big problem.
agree with Vice Mayor Smith's comments on the drainage. It matters because there are a tremendous amount of drainage issues in that community. Until we get a comprehensive, we need to have a comprehensive study so then we can start chipping away at it. So
Right.
that one's one I feel strongly that we need to advocate hard for that one.
Okay, so.
That
wa-
would
you
actually
wanna-
be a disservice to that community.
Oh, yeah.
Mine
Again,
specifically is to replace
Okay, that's the motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any clarity needed on that motion? No. All right. Call the roll, please.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you all. So at this point, do we have any other speakers on this item at all?
We do not, sir.
All right. So now it's 5:45, and I'll close this public hearing. Next item is number 6, approve submission of a letter of interest and direction to explore the future agreement with Pioneer Community Energy Systems.
All right. Yeah, so I'll kick this off really briefly, but or try to be brief. I think everyone here is aware of Butte Choice Energy. That was a CCA, a Community Choice Aggregation Program that was kicked off, gosh, here in the county. It was probably 6 or 7 years ago, and the idea behind a CCA is that it provides local jurisdictions the opportunity to purchase their own power on the open market, ideally at a lower cost, that then can be passed on to consumers, and then also it provides consumers with choice. They're able to buy different portfolios. If they want to buy greener energy, they can. If they want to buy the cheapest energy possible, they can. And then with savings that are passed on to customers, ideally the programs produce savings that are then reinvested into energy programs that are needed by the community. So that was the goal. I think when Butte Choice Energy was initiated, some of the goals of that organization were to provide lower cost energy and also be an economic development driver. The wheels were in motion. The program was going very well until COVID hit, and then when COVID hit, literally the organization was in the process of trying to hire an executive director for the Butte Choice Energy when the COVID hit, and it just since then the credit market was not ideal, and there's been some changes actually in the energy market, which probably Don could speak to. But the long story short, there were a number of meetings with the BCA group for following COVID, and they've continued. We have contact with our consultant periodically, and at this point in time, to start a CCA, it would be very risky, and we're not in the business of being risky with public funds. It's a significant number of upfront capital in order to purchase that energy. So with that said, we were in the process of providing an update to the BCEA board when we were reached out to by Pioneer Community Energy, and we had a great conversation with Pioneer, and they've been extremely successful. And I'll let Don do a presentation in a second, but I mean, there's been some synergies there. They've been super successful on the cost savings, and a lot of their goals, we think align potentially well with the city of Oroville and actually Butte County, the city of Chico, even the town of Paradise is looking at. So with that, I'll just turn it over to Don real quick, and Don's the executive director for Pioneer, and we'll go from there.
Great, thank you, Mr. Ring.
Don, welcome to the council. There's a couple quick questions here that probably were questions to Brian. Councilman Goodson.
I'm going to wait until the presentation.
Okay,
Thank
Vice
you.
Mayor Smith?
Yeah, likewise. I'll
Okay.
wait till you.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, fellow council members. Thank you, staff, for having us here, and thank you, members of the public. We'll keep this presentation to 10 minutes or less, and if we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So Brian introduced me. Also with my staff that you'll hear from tonight is Gina Stasi-Vanacore, Director of Communications, as well as Lisa Delaby, Community Outreach Manager. And down the road, if this all works out, you'll be hearing from both of those folks quite a bit in the process as we look to bring you on board. Next slide, please. So I think Brian covered the Butte Choice very well. Just to lower the anxiety tonight, you're not joining a CCA or Pioneer Community Energy. What we're looking for is direction to at least partake in a impact assessment study. We'll get into more details of what that is in a moment, but in a nutshell, we just want to run a study to see at time of launch the projected rates at that time and the cost to serve the city. If it's positive, it's good for the JPA. It also means it's good for the city. Then it makes sense to financially move forward. So that's really what we're looking for tonight, is direction on that. And as Brian talked about, so far we have Town of Paradise and City of Chico have agreed to partake in that study. We're meeting with the county on July 30th, and of course with all you tonight. So it would be a total cost of the study is $30,000. Our board has, the Pioneer Board has agreed to pay for half of that as they look to continue the CCA movement in this region. We feel like this is a great fit, as Brian talked about. And the Pioneer Board would pay for half that study at $15,000. The other $15,000 would be split between the four parties, the county, as well as the town and the two cities. Next slide, please. So there's one slide on this that talks about how does a CCA work. Just want to, and I think we'll cover that in a moment, but essentially you're not going to have a situation, you're going to still have the poles and the wires, or PG&E. So you're not getting away from, yeah, thank you so much. So you're not getting away from PG&E on that side of the business, but on the generation side, the electrons that are flowing through those poles and wires, that's where we come in. So this really just becomes about choice. You're not replacing PG&E. You're basically offering your folks a choice on about 40% of the bill. Also gives you the opportunity to take control of your energy future. Give you an example of that would be, for instance, City of Auburn, Grass Valley, Nevada City have used Pioneer's Green 100% renewable program to be able to reach their climate action goals. So it's about taking control of your future and then saving dollars. We've saved our customers over the last 6 years over $120 million in ratepayer savings, and we feel strongly we can do the same for you. And I think when I look at this slide, you're going to get into the game on 40% of the bill for about $4,000 in the impact assessment study. You're not having the general fund at risk in any way. That's the beauty of joining a JPA. And just to give you an example, City of Rockland, where we're located, they hired a consultant to look at buying their T&D system. They're unhappy. They wanted to purchase the system. First of all, PG&E wasn't selling it, but even if they were, they hired a consultant, and this was before the pandemic when prices were still a little bit stable, and it was about $450 million to purchase a system. So this gets you in the game. You're not replacing PG&E entirely. You're not forming your own utility, but it gets you into the game for roughly $4,000. I'm just going to cover some what I call myth busters, some questions up front to get those out of the way, and then we'll get into what Pioneer's all about. So does Pioneer replace PG&E? I think we covered that. We're going to be the generation portion of your service. Everything else is still with PG&E. If I join Pioneer, will it impact my PG&E service? I heard in the previous presentation talking about PG&E as far as infrastructure in the city. That's simply not the case. So if a customer joins a CCA, the city joins a CCA, does PG&E stop their investment? No, they would not. Would they put you in the back of the line if there's a outage because you're part of a CCA? No, they would not. And I don't have any evidence, any complaint with the CPUC over the last 14 years that CCAs have been in business to go against that. But also, it doesn't make sense for PG&E to want to do that. They make a rate of return on that capital investment. They would continue to want to do that. They also want you back online like we would, so it's in their best interest to not behave that way. Will my transmission and distribution rates, T&D, increase by joining Pioneer? So this is a common question where if PG&E is losing the generation revenues, do they make up for it by increasing the T&D rates? They're going to increase the T&D rates for other reasons, but it's not going to be because of that. Just an example. So they don't make a rate of return on fuel or purchase power on the generation rate. That is simply the cost. So they're losing the revenues, but they're also losing the costs on the generation side. Where they make their rate of return is on the T&D side. So it's simply not going to be the case of, and also with rate making, you can't just simply take costs from one, such as customer service or generation, and if you lose those costs and the revenues, that you just can move those over to transmission and distribution. It just simply doesn't work that way with the basics of rate making. Next slide, please. So is Pioneer the middleman buying from PG&E and marking up to the ratepayers? Absolutely not. So as I mentioned, we've saved our ratepayers over $120 million in the last 6 years. We couldn't do that if we're just buying from PG&E and marking it up. Another common question is on the net energy metering, or NEM folks. So we have currently 40,000 NEM customers. Common question would be, I'm in the NEM 2.0 program. For those of you that are in NEM, you know that every version of NEM is worse than the version before. So if I'm defaulted, if I join Pioneer, am I now defaulted to the NEM 3.0 rate? Absolutely not. So whatever you're grandfathered into at NEM 1, NEM 2, you stay there. We pay a half-cent premium for your generation over PG&E. And then will I lose my PG&E program, such as RU on Care, FARA, any sort of special rate with PG&E? Absolutely not. All that carries over. And I think with that, I'm going to then hand this over to Lisa to go through the next part of the presentation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Don. Welcome, Lisa.
Hi, Council. How are you?
Good.
Thanks, Mayor. The slide behind you basically tells you why you should choose Pioneer. That isn't on the agenda tonight, but I wanted to just showcase that Pioneer serves inland communities like Oroville with similar priorities like customer savings, community reinvestment, and economic development. Don said we've saved our customers $85 million since we've launched in 2018. Pioneer is a joint powers authority. We're a not-for-profit public agency. We're not a private company. Our board of directors is comprised of only elected officials from the jurisdictions that we serve. So wanted to really make that point home. And Pioneer creates opportunities to support biomass and also our local power purchase agreements. So with El Dorado Irrigation District, we signed a 10-year, $37 million contract with them. Creates local jobs, keeps the money in the local area. PCWA, Placer County Water Association, we've worked with them on over $10 million. Sierra Pacific Industries, over $1.2 million. And the same with, we're also working on a Grass Valley RFP for biomass, which is wonderful. And then the Western Placer Waste Management on a biomass plant there. But those power purchase agreements, we really feel strongly about them and keeping those monies in the communities that we serve. Next slide. In the absence of time, I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, but I just wanted to show you the slide behind you, our service area. We service Placer and El Dorado counties, the cities of Auburn, Colfax, Grass Valley, Lincoln, Loomis, Nevada City, Placerville, and Rockland. We added Nevada City and Grass Valley in January. Next slide. I've already mentioned that Pioneer is a joint powers authority, not-for-profit public agency. Our board of directors are only elected, so if you did decide to join Pioneer, you would have one member from the city of Oroville on our board, and there's no weighted voting, so you would all be able to have equal say. Next slide, please. Our criteria for expansion, we've adopted an expansion policy, and it basically needs to make financial sense, not only for you, but also for our JPA as well. So that's why we need the impact assessment study, just to determine if it makes financial sense. We also want to only work with folks that are like-minded. We want cities and counties that are like-minded, and they're in the inland area. Cost savings, we think it's important to have cost savings for our members and customers. Biomass, it's a huge priority for us. And we also want to help create local projects and create local jobs. And I already mentioned the one member, one vote, no weighted voting. Oroville gets a seat on our board. Next slide. The next slide really highlights the benefits of Pioneer. Dawn mentioned we've saved our customers $85 million since we started in 2018. Our customers are our shareholders. And also, we really pride ourselves on our excellent customer service. And we've allocated $2 million for local programs in the areas that we serve, and I'll touch on those in a bit. We also have a very solid track record of success. We received an A- credit rating from S&P. Next slide. This slide illustrates the many ways that Pioneer reinvest in the communities that we serve. We use local vendors, we offer local programs, we sponsor local events, and we work to create local power purchase agreements, again, so those funds stay local. So I'm just going to highlight, I've already touched on our 10-year power purchase agreement with El Dorado for $37 million. We've allocated $15 million to support local biomass projects and small hydro projects in the territories that we serve. And if Oroville comes on board, we would still be doing that research. I've heard from a supervisor who said, don't leave South Feather out of this. So being a Butte County longtime resident, and I have a good relationship with the supervisors. Also, we've purchased energy and resource adequacy purchases from our local Placer County Water Agency. And as I mentioned, we have our local programs with $2 million. So based on input from our board, they really prioritize customer savings, community programs, reinvestment, and economic development in the areas that we serve. Next slide. As Dawn mentioned, Pioneer offers local programs, and any program that you have with PG&E, such as Medical Baseline Care or FARA, it all carries over. But we have some local programs that we offer in the communities that we serve. It's an online solar marketplace to help customers really go through the maze of solar for their homes. And so it kind of helps protect from bad folks that might be out there. We have a subsidized LED lighting program. We have an HVAC tune-up program that provides a $75 rebate if you get your HVAC tuned up. And then we're going to launch a GridGen zero-down lease program for residents to pair solar and battery storage, which is really exciting. And our Customer Advisory Committee meets bi-monthly to prioritize the programs that they want to see offered. Next slide. Pioneer is a strong advocate for biomass. We sponsored and led AB 843, which passed by a unanimous bipartisan basis, and it enabled CCAs to participate in a local biomat program. Well, it's a state program, and that we launched that in June. We also have our feed-in tariff program that, again, is $15 million that Pioneer is uniquely incentivizing investment in biomass and small hydro projects in the service territories that we benefit. Education and advocacy are key goals of Pioneer. We work regularly with legislators, and we also advocate with legislators to try and keep the rates low for electricity and also to promote biomass energy. We're working to develop a biomass plant with the Placer Waste Management, and we're also working with Grass Valley on an RFP for a biomass plant there. Next slide. As Pioneer's community outreach manager, we're committed to being community partners in the areas that we serve, and we do that in a number of ways, and I'm going to be really brief. We're very active with RCRC, and we identify potential biomass projects that lead to economic development. We're very active with the local chambers of commerce. Wink, Eric. And we've sponsored a lot of League of Cities events and also sponsoring marquee events, but we're also partnering with the California Biomass Energy Alliance, and we work with economic development groups. Next slide. So just wanted to provide you a brief timeline for expansion, and to actually just move this forward. We have already worked with Paradise and Chico, and Butte County has also expressed an interest to move forward, but we'll be meeting with them on July 30th. And we just wanted to just let you know we're on track with this timeline, and we're just seeking approval tonight to proceed with the impact assessment study, which would be $15,000 split 4 ways, $3,750 each. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Lisa, we have some questions here. Councilman Goodson?
Yes, I remember. This is like a deja vu of 2022. And so I do recall we had a very lively, aggressive conversation about this, and we had some good pros and we had some interesting cons. We know we look forward to lower rates, environmental benefits, and the potential for local renewable energy projects, but some of our concerns were we identified 3, and I just added a 4th one. The control is not total. The city of Oroville would have limited control over decisions being made. And 2, some residents had some concerns about exit fees from when leaving PG&E. And third was the rate changes. How competitive are they, and will they fluctuate over time? And the one I just added is, what is the penalty for pulling out of the JPA?
So I'll try to answer most of those questions, but you may have to remind me on the
Yeah.
video. So you are correct. You would be one member of currently 10. I think the key is when we're looking at new members, and both sides need to consider that, is low rates important? Is biomass important? Is local projects important? If it's a good fit, then it's not so severe to be just one of 10 when everybody is on the same page. So that's my thought there. But you're absolutely right. It would be one of 10 or more as we grow. And then on the rates, we have consistently been less than PG&E. When I look at our budget, it's 92% of it is power supply. So we have very little administrative and general costs other than our core business, which is power supply. So when the playing field is level, we will compete with PG&E, and we've shown that year after year. Exit fees, if you're talking about customer leaving Pioneer as far as an exit fee, absolutely not. There is no administrative fee. So if someone wants to join Pioneer there's like a 2-month, if we were hypothetically January 1, there's 2 months before January 1 where a customer could opt in and out, and then 2 months after they could opt in and out. After that time frame, once they opt out, they need to stay out for about 12 months, and then they can come back or stay with PG&E, but there's no administrative fee at any time. And they can, if we're 5 years down the road, they can opt out at any time. Just they need to wait a year to rejoin. So hopefully I answered that question. And then the last question is if you were to leave the JPA. So on that schedule, if everything went according to plan, we would file the paperwork with the CPUC at the end of this year. Then we are obligated to wait 1 year, that's a CPUC rule, before you could join. So the soonest you could join would be 2026. In 2025, we use that time to procure the power, to educate your citizens about what is coming. And we would not be purchasing power for City of Orville until the CPUC gives us approval. So once we file the paperwork, there's a maximum 90 days. So let's just say it goes out to the end of March. In April, before we start procuring power, we would come back to this council and to the city manager to make sure everything is still good. And at that point, if you were to pull out after we purchase power, we'd have to work out some arrangement as far as that reimbursement, to be fair.
Absolutely.
But did I get all your questions?
Yes, you did.
Okay, thank you. My memory hasn't gone yet.
You're good.
Appreciate that.
We do have another question from Vice Mayor Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is going to sound somewhat counterintuitive in light of the comment. I actually voted against the JPA initially. I'm very skeptical. At that point, with the Butte County JPA, it was a 2% potential savings to the customer. And then I see a 10%, which is extremely robust. I think, I don't know if everyone fully understands exactly what we're talking about. You're going to essentially become Orville's power broker, purchasing power on our behalf. So immediately, the Chamber of Commerce brain kicks in. So what makes me believe that you're going to be better at that game than PG&E? Because you're playing the same, except for that there's even potential constraints, because as you said, community priorities, like for Roseville or Granite Bay, they may have a high priority of green energy, which typically costs more. So, and there are folks down there that are willing to pay more than the exorbitant rates that we're currently paying per kilowatt hour now here. I think most of us, our priority would be cost savings in Oroville. That would be a high priority. So PG&E can buy power from anywhere, dirty power, clean power, it doesn't matter, just getting the best bang for their buck and then selling it back to us. So so immediately in my mind, you're a government agency, another layer of bureaucracy, and then you're saying that we can buy it for you better and smarter than PG&E. So right away, red flags go up in my head. I was like, holy cow, that's amazing. So I question that. How is that done? And then on the other side of it, because PG&E, it's a monopoly. That's why we have the CPUC. They set the rates, and they say PG&E. In fact, I blame CPUC, if they're listening, for the fires, not PG&E. PG&E's at fault. I mean, they made some major mistakes. But I think the government's equally culpable, because they set the rates and they tell PG&E what they're going to do or not do. They're the directors, right? They're in the driver's seat. So I guess, given all of those, it's just a complicated, very complicated question. So I'm going to be a hard sell with this. But anytime that somebody's stepping up and saying we can save the folks money, it would be irresponsible for me not to listen. I'm just letting you know. I know these details. I've spent many hours studying this issue. JPAs don't always produce what they promise. There's been anyway, without even going into all of that. So I'm looking with, and I love it. I love you work with Chamber of Commerce and community, and there's givebacks and all that, and there's wonderful programs, and and wait, and then there's more. Now for only $19.99, that kind of a thing. So I guess I'm just looking at it. I'm going to be very, every detail, every T, every I dotted on this, but it just intrigues me on how another layer of government, to repeat myself, how that we can have a whole another layer and then yet do it cheaper than the people that have been doing it for a long time and they have no constraints. So so that part, I'm really interested in exactly how do you get there? And then that $120 million that you've saved, folks, is that because there's grants? Took it leveraged grants, or was that actually because we did it smarter and better than PG&E, which I'd be, if you can show that, that's amazing, and I'd be very impressed, and I'd get right behind you and lean in and push, because that's great. So if that $120 million is actually because you do it better and smarter than PG&E, I'm all in. All in 100%. But if we're kind of like, moving the cups around, right, then we have a problem. So, all right.
Was there a question there, sir?
So the question is. So the question is that real savings? You bought it smarter and better and cheaper than PG&E, and that was actually handed over to the ratepayers. All of us paying, and then at 10%. Is that a real doable number?
First of all, I didn't bring the cups, but
Yeah.
but that is an audible number. It's verified. We have two rates that we offer our folks. One is the Green 100. That's 100% renewable, which is what you're talking about. Many of the CCAs have, especially in the Bay Area, have said rate savings are not the priority as much as changing or bending the carbon footprint, if you will. For us, it's always been about rate savings. So we do offer the Green 100 for those that it is important to them. But our standard product, what everyone would be defaulted into, would be we follow this just a little bit above the state minimum and what our portfolio needs to be on renewable. And just keep in mind, all utilities need to be at least 60% renewable by 2030. So we're going in a much slower pace than maybe some of the other CCAs because we are concerned about rate savings. But the numbers are real in that we are good at what we do. We also, there's a lot of legacy contracts with PG&E that they got involved with many years back, that it was all about getting the solar online as opposed to the pricing. They're still living with that. We're not. We're also very nimble in looking at new technologies. So we're out there in the market every day. And we also have a very robust hedging program that we have a laddering strategy over 5 years. Every quarter we update that so that if prices do go up, we're not seeing an immediate impact to the ratepayers. So I do believe in what we do. The numbers are real.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
slide on over.
Yeah.
Hey, Don, can One thing that I was learned many years ago, and this was also the fact that PG&E is for profit. So that was a big deal. Why you can sell energy at, you're not looking to make a profit. So that was another variable that was.
Sure, and that variable, obviously, because, you know, it's a nonprofit, and it's basically a pseudo public agency, you don't have that dynamic.
Brian.
And that is a great point. But I'm actually very hopeful. I want to see it work. And I think that, you know, we owe it to the folks to do the best we can to save them a buck.
All right.
Thank you. Two questions I have as I'm in the group. Number one is, how much control does the CPUC have over your purchasing of power? Do they have restrictions on what you can and can't buy? Is one question. The other question is, when you mentioned Sierra Pacific Industries, is that based upon their mill being in a certain jurisdiction or to the company as a whole?
Well, we bought some, we call PCC3 or power content category 3 renewable energy credits from them.
Right.
They're located in Lincoln, and it was a good fit for us, and they're in the territory.
The reason I'm asking the question, they have a very large mill here in Oroville. And so if we joined, that mill would benefit, or could benefit if they choose.
Absolutely, and we would almost immediately want to reach out and do something. So, like we did with, Lisa pointed out, the El Dorado Irrigation District.
Right.
And PCWA, we're right now in chats with Nevada Irrigation District, now that we're in Nevada.
So the geographic of the city is where the customers come from. It's not an agency geographic, in other words, a CPI, because I would imagine that if you looked at the entire SPI, you'd have a lot more savings than just one mill.
Right,
I mean,
right,
that's huge.
Right.
So.
But we do want to emphasize to do business in the territory that we're in.
Yeah, exactly. I certainly understand that. And I think essentially when we look at the past, the discussion was we have to start up a CCI. And we're not looking at startup costs here. We're looking at joining costs.
Right.
And I think that's a very clear item. And the other big issue is right now with the heat wave we have right now, there are people that can't pay their bill. Clearly. And they're looking at every program possible, and it's just because it's excessive. And every one of us probably have a story about someone that can't pay their bill. So we responsibly have to look at this, and I personally am very excited about the potential here. So I appreciate your presentation, and thank you for that, even coming to be interested in us. That being said, Councilman Thompson.
Thank you. I've had some conversations with Patrick. I know you're really involved and have a lot of interest with this matter, and so I just wanted to hear your take on this, because I think there was another option as well that you were looking into, and I just wanted to see if the other idea that you had, I don't need to mention it, but like, just basically what's your thoughts on this opportunity?
That other idea doesn't work without us joining a JPA like this. Yeah,
This is part of one of the chain links for that process.
Right. I mean, I think I've been annoying to Brian and to, about something like this, because I think those goals that I have are interesting. I think they could be great for the community. And Pioneer came along at the right time, I think, and so we started this conversation. Brian did some fairly extensive vetting to see, are they really getting 10%? Is it really a good deal? And he's found out from some of the people that he worked with in the past through Butte Choice that that they do have a good reputation. So all those things that I've talked about in the past are dependent on us being part of a JPA, because otherwise we have no purchasing authority.
And the beauty of this, of a CCA, is again, we've had a lot of conversations, there's been a lot of, in biomass or bio product, energy producers have looked at the city of Oroville to start a business here. And if right now with PG&E, we can't say, oh yeah, great, can you give us low-cost energy, because we don't have the ability to procure. Right. So, and this is, every time we talk, I learn something new, and you can see how it sounds like you've made agreements and made arrangements with biomass or energy producers to do that PPA, or that power purchase agreement. So it does give us flexibility in the future to be, I guess, more active in the energy market from a job creation, energy production perspective that we can't do right now.
We have things like, what is it, Mountain F, they have an interconnect. once they get their generator up and, or sorry, their biomass facility running again, which they're working towards, they can be feeding energy into there, and then we could be purchasers of that. So, directly. So there could be a whole thing of purchasing local energy for the local community. There's a company here, something's going to DRC at the next meeting about a potential pretty large solar farm. And so I have not fully connected with them, but I did ask them if they'd be interested in selling to us, and they're very interested in that. So again, all of those things require us to have the purchasing power, so we would have to belong to a CCA.
All right. I forgot to mention too, it's not just the single-family residential that's here, but we have very large consumers of power in our production between the cannery, the GPI, in fact, one company put their own generator in because they wanted to pay for their own power and make sure it was there. So we have a huge amount of electricity used in the companies that we have in production here. So we would be a very good customer. I wouldn't doubt that a bit.
I think there's opportunities for us to do something with the CCA that will support those businesses and
Right.
lower their cost or have some benefits to them. Most definitely. So
Thompson, are you completed? Yeah, I'm done. All right. Councilman Goodson's next in the queue for questions.
Okay. Information and knowledge is, there's power in that, with no pun intended. I don't believe that there's any harm in submitting a letter of interest, so I'm in favor, just for the record.
All right, thank you. Vice Mayor Smith again.
Yeah, and just to recap my comments, I question, because we did join the JPA, we can put some money in that game. So kind of and we move in this other direction, what does that look like? And part of my concern with that particular endeavor was that it was a startup. A lot of folks not really having a lot of experience. And this is a very, as you know, but you're in the game. You have a proven track record, yes, successful. That gives me a lot of confidence. I'm just like the tough customer, asking the hard questions. But you know what? If you sell me, I'm going to be your biggest advocate, right? And at the end of the day, like I said, we carry a heavy responsibility ensuring that the folks get the best deal and the most choice. And I see all that, and I understand from our community development director and others, all the advantages, all the different dynamics which will put us in play. I'm just letting you know that, I'm watching. But I'm very hopeful and optimistic. So at the end of the day, I'm certainly, let's round 2.0 in the JPA for energy.
Do you have more of your presentation? I see there's a different slide up, so.
Oh, I was just showing the 2 rate products that Don already mentioned.
We included a lot of slides in the appendix, but we won't cover it unless you feel need to.
All right. Well, I appreciate that.
Where are we at with the JP?
Yeah, so we were actually in the process of scheduling a meeting with Butte Choice Energy just to give that governing board an update that basically would have said, hey, it still is not financially feasible due to a multitude of variables for a new startup to go. So let's pause this for a year unless there's a desire to look at alternative, joining another CCA. And they weren't even aware we were having these conversations, but then they reached out to us. And so that we were going to have a meeting, I think, first week in August. But ultimately what we could do is, if the council's wishes, we could choose this letter, go through the analysis, go through the study. We don't dissolve Butte Choice Energy at this point in time, but obviously if this looks great for the city and it looks great for Pioneer, then at that point in time, I think we take action once we make that decision. So again, today is not making any hard decisions. It's a matter of let's get more information, and as your council has questions, it gives us time to actually dig into this a little further.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none. Was that a motion you made?
That was a motion to
All right.
submit a
I'll
letter
second.
of interest.
Motion seconded. Let's call a roll real quick.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank
forward
you.
to working with you.
Thank you for the presentation. We look forward to things. All right, next item, number 7, discontinuance of the fluoridation and domestic water supply provided by California Water Service to the city of Oroville. Who's speaking on this one?
That'd be me again. Apologize.
Yeah.
So real quickly, the city of Oroville has had fluorinated water in its Cal Water domestic water services since the 50s. And we've had a couple discussions here at the council. And obviously, there's been a lot of changes since the 50s. And as you can see in the various literature, I think that's been provided to the council over the last couple months while this topic has been discussed, there's literature in favor of providing fluoride in water, and there's literature in opposition of that. I've talked to many individuals, and I can hear different pros and cons. Ultimately, though, the council on May 21st directed staff to initiate the process to discontinue the fluorination of water in the Cal Water domestic water. So that's what's brought before you today is a resolution to essentially cease doing what we were doing before, what we adopted in the 50s, and move forward with working with Cal Water and the CPUC to do whatever needs to be done mechanically to cease that process.
Councilman Weber.
Yes, I am in complete support of removing the fluoride. I think that that in the 1950s, when this was adopted, that they probably thought this was the most effective way to get it into our people because of what they knew or they thought that fluoride would do. I think that we have incredible advancements in dentistry and care, and I think that basically this amounts to it's their body, their choice, essentially. So I think we should just give them clean drinking water and let them decide whether they want to have fluoridated toothpaste or whatever they want to use. So I'm of the opinion that we pass this motion, so I'd like to make a motion that we just get it done.
I'll second that if we're ready.
So sorry, we do have some public commenters to speak.
Okay. We have a card?
Yes, we do. We'll begin with Howard Pollock and follow that with Bill Spear. Mr. Pollock has a printed version of what he's about to say, so I'm going to hand that out to you all.
Welcome, Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Howard Pollock. I'm a professor in the School of Dentistry at the University of California, San Francisco, licensed dentist in California since 1973, specialist in dental public health, an expert spokesman on fluoridation for the American Dental Association. I've published extensively in peer-reviewed journals on fluoride and water fluoridation, served as a peer reviewer for several scientific journals. I led a team that conducted the California Oral Health Needs Assessment of children, where more than 6,000 children were examined and their parents provided detailed demographic and other information. The results of that study found that children in non-fluoridated communities in grades K through 3 had 40% more tooth decay than their counterparts in fluoridated communities after controlling for family income. I would feel derelict in my responsibilities to the people of California, being the fluoridation consultant for the California Department of Public Health, and including the people of Oroville, if I did not provide information about the benefits of fluoridation that continue since the 50s and the consequences of discontinuing this important practice. My opposition to this proposed resolution is based on the following. Community water fluoridation is a safe, inexpensive, effective, and equitable public health program being recognized by the CDC as one of 10 great public health achievements. Among the many scientific, medical, and public health organizations that have reviewed the evidence and confirmed the benefits and safety of fluoridation, the U.S. Public Health Service, American Medical Association, American Dental Association, American Academy of Pediatrics, the World Health Organization, and the American Water Works Association. The water supplied to the city of Oroville has been fluoridated for almost 70 years. The state of California has more than 22 million people served by fluoridated water, more than any other state. In 1995, the California legislature approved a bill to fluoridate public water supplies, a bill signed into law by the then Republican Governor Pete Wilson. The cities of Sacramento, West Sacramento, Los Angeles, San Diego, and many others are fluoridated. In Sonoma County, the city of Healdsburg has likewise been fluoridated for almost 70 years. Recently, the citizens of Healdsburg twice rejected an attempt to stop fluoridation of the ballot box. There is evidence that stopping or discontinuing fluoridation will lead to increased dental problems, increased number of cavities, more extensive cavities, increased need for more extensive dental treatment, including root canal procedures and tooth extractions. That evidence comes from the extensive detailed studies in Antigua, Wisconsin, where 5 years after fluoridation was stopped, second-grade children had a 200% increase in tooth decay compared to children of the same age before it was stopped. There are similar findings in Alaska, Alberta, Canada, and Israel. More points I've made available to you as a PDF in an email I sent, as well as a hard copy of the American Dental Association's fluoridation facts. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the information.
Thank you, sir. Up next, we have Bill Spear.
And we appreciate the text, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, I live in Thermalito. We have really good water there. They don't put any fluoride in. They did a tour of their facility there. They have a really awesome filtration system and a really high quality water. I wish they would pipe it across into downtown. But if you look at your water bottles, you'll see that none of them have fluoride in them, because I don't think anybody would buy bottled water with fluoride added into it. I was sitting back there and I Googled harmful effects of fluoride, and there's a lot of harmful effects that deteriorates it can do damage to your teeth and then your bones, and I think that as someone else was saying earlier, advancement of dentistry and teeth care, and that there's plenty ample opportunity for the youth and the adults to have proper teeth care without forcing it into our water supply. People should have the right to have a clean temple, buy water that does not have fluoride in it. And again, if it was such a great idea, I'm sure they would be selling water with fluoride already in it, bottled water, but people aren't going to buy it. And I don't think the people in downtown should have to have it involuntarily. I did have a thought, they could give the fluoride to the meth dealers. It might work for them, but for the water supply, I think, I've been drinking water since 1965, and I prefer the nice, clean, clear, good water without stuff in it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other cards?
Mr. Mayor, I just need to read the electronic names into the record. We did receive one from Howard Pollock, one from Butte Sierra District Dental Society, and one from Jenny Miller. That's all I have for submitted comments.
Thank you all. Any questions from council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilman Riggs, excuse me.
Thank you. I'm just going to share that although there are a lot of methods in which people can choose to add fluoride to their dental care, although dentistry has improved and included fluoride applications during dentistry, lower income individuals have difficulty receiving that care and have difficulty purchasing that higher quality product. And so the way I see this is that this would actually put a larger disadvantage on those lower income households that really do rely on it as their first line of defense for tooth issues. As a young person, I was in a community that was not fluoridated, didn't have fluoridization, and then I was also super low income, had Medi-Cal, and often missed dentist appointments. And then as an adult, when I was able to take care of my own health and get my own insurance, all of those things, had significant dental issues because of lack of proper health care as a child. So for me, I'm going to vote against this. I'd like for us to continue to put fluoride in water. It's proven safe, and you can Google all sorts of things and get a bunch of malarkey. But for me, I'm going to be voting against this because of that access to preventative care and the importance of that.
Vice Mayor Smith is in the queue.
I think for me, it's a question of the public responsibility, our responsibility versus, the right of our citizens and the choices that they make for themselves. I certainly appreciate the dental community and the concern, and I think that point that's made by Councilwoman Riggs is very valid. Again, it comes back to that question, where does our responsibility end and personal responsibilities begin? And just kind of taking just a kind of a 30,000-foot poll, just as we've had this conversation times before, and this is anecdotal, but it seems like that the majority of the opinion from the public, the general public, is that they would rather not have it in the water. Some of the professional opinions, like in this letter, again, there's some obviously there's some professional validity and points being made here, but I think there are obviously, and I think Councilman Weber made the comment about, lots changed since the 50s. If we want to use our own anecdotal stories, my son, well water was what we had. I was obviously no fluoride, and we had no issues. So, and of course, then right away you go, income levels and all of that. But in Oroville, the folks that are fiscally challenged have lots of options today. There is a lot of healthcare choices that are provided in our community that's made available if you avail yourself of that. So again, I think I always default towards personal choice and privacy rights and those kinds of things. So that's kind of where I'm falling on this issue. And the idea that as a government agency that we're mandating or foisting upon the public our will or what we think is best. We know what's best for you. Just drink it. I struggle with that notion a little bit. So thank you.
Councilman Weber's in the queue.
Yes, thank you very much. I have 5 points I'd like to make, and then I'll be done. One is we have 3 local providers, 2 of which do not add fluoride, and I think we would be hard-pressed to look at the data, if the data were to be available, and see if we have overwhelming or staggering amounts of tooth decay in the other 2 districts that do not fluoridate their water. Number 2 is I to your point, Vice Mayor Smith, I've had overwhelming, and I mean like overwhelming comments and messages from constituents saying they absolutely want clean water, that they would like the choice, not us to mandate it upon them. 3, I live downtown just a few blocks away from here, and I drink this water every day because I refuse to buy bottled water. And I would like water that I don't have to consume fluoride in it. And 4, it's up to the individual, not us. It really is. If they want fluoride, they could get fluoride. And toothpaste, if you go and look at almost every single branded toothpaste has what would be considered an adequate amount of fluoride to get onto the enamel of the teeth. So it's radically different than from the 1950s. Technology has advanced. Tooth care has advanced. The awareness of what we need to do with tooth care has advanced. And so those are my 5 points, and I just make that motion. I'm hoping that we can just knock this out, get the fluoride out of the water.
Okay. Any other questions? I see the queue's not full, so was that a motion to adopt resolution number 9284?
And I second.
Eric seconded.
Eric seconded. I guess we call the roll.
Motion passes with 6 yeses and 1 no.
Thank you all for the input. We received a lot of good information on both sides of this coin, and that's what we're all up here for. So again, thank you for your interest in this topic, and we appreciate the information delivered to us. Next item is number 8, community member appointments to various committees and commissions.
I'll take this one.
Okay.
So for the council's consideration today, there are some applications included in your agenda packet that were moved forward from the executive committee meeting that was held on May 20th. As the process is, we review those applications inside the executive committee meeting, and then those that we wish to recommend to council come to council for appointment. In this instance, we are requesting that the council appoint Chris Hicks to the Parks Commission with a term expiring June 30th, 2018. And then for the Planning Commission, we are requesting that you appoint John Zilich II and Soar Tao, and then reappoint Natalie Sheard and Glenna Rossi to the Planning Commission, all with terms that expire June 30th, 2018.
2028.
28.
I'm so sorry, 2028.
Any questions from council? Any cards on this item?
No, sir, but I do want to note that John Zilich is here if you have any questions for him and would like to address him.
I would say, as one that sat on the executive committee, it was encouraging to see so many applications, and they appreciate the applications included other volunteer items. So it helped us make a balance to fulfilling everyone's voluntary contributions, and I thank the public for those applications. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Call roll, please.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you all. Number 9, placement of solid waste liens on the 2024-25 property tax roll.
That's me. So the next 6 staff reports are related to tax roll. It's a tax roll time. So the first one up is the solid waste liens. This is something we do in cooperation with Recology. It's in our franchise agreement with them, and so we're just looking for your permission to put the liens on the tax roll.
Any questions? Any public comment cards?
I have a question.
Oh, sorry, Councilman Thompson.
Thank you. Just out of curiosity, I know we've done this, I just never asked the question. Yeah. What is it on some of these APNs? Some of those figures goes up to past $6,000.
We actually have a Recology representative here, so Caitlin Parks, she can answer your questions.
Yeah, like some of them are $128 versus $6,000, almost $300.
Right. Some of the larger ones are the commercial properties where some of their monthly bill is $1,500. So
Oh.
you're looking at, only a couple of months. And then some of the smaller ones are your residential customers.
So, and then the process here is a lien gets put on the
Property tax roll, yeah. So it's paid with their property taxes, but I believe we have a grace period leading up until the time we place the liens that they can still pay this off.
So this gets put on the, is there the lien placed on their property?
Yes.
So just out of curiosity, if David owns property and Eric is renting it and having a business out of it, and Eric isn't paying his trash bill, is it that David gets penalized for Eric's lacks in paying his bill?
Correct.
So then I guess it's on David's responsibility to boot him, or does David get notified that Eric is not paying his trash bill?
Correct.
If, I mean, obviously, this is,
Gotcha.
Correct. So the account
I know.
holder gets notified every month of a past due notice. The
Right.
Property owner gets notified in January of any past due at that time. They get notified in May, and then they get notified of this meeting here today. And then I completely 100% support any payment arrangements, anything that I can do to try to help the customer avoid this from happening.
Gotcha.
So just.
But ultimately, in the process, the taxpayers have to pick up the almost $400,000 of delinquent fees.
I don't believe that it's ever been that high. I think that
Well,
was just the first list, and then a lot of those people pay that off before it gets to lien time, and so
Gotcha.
that's just the high beginning notice.
Gotcha, yeah, because I'm looking at
Yeah.
$381,000.
It's never really actually been that high once we place the liens.
I see. Once you play this lien, they're like, oh, Eric
Yeah.
pays his bill.
Lots of them.
Thanks, Eric.
Just for reference, in January, we started out with about 1,000 customers that were delinquent, and I just ran the numbers before I left today, and we're under 500. So
Oh, good.
we've at least cut that number in half.
Okay, cool. Oh, Vice Mayor Smith, are you in the queue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a question. Yeah, as a landlord, by the way, I've experienced this. That's one of the risks of being a landlord. I mean, that just goes with it. I mean, I know we like to be rough on landlords because they're, the slumlords and, all the jokes that go around. But, it's a business and it's a risk and it's just there. But the question I have for you is, and I didn't look at last year or even the last couple of years, but is this, it just sounds like more than what it's been? And so that's usually an indicator of economics and what's going on locally, and that's my interest.
Right. So unfortunately, the trash service monthly did go up a little bit, so we do have that annual increase. The amount of customers, it fluctuates. I do know that some customers wait to pay it on their tax bill just so they can see that utility bill as part of the tax, income or tax purposes. But it does fluctuate.
This is higher than it has been in the past.
I can't speak to in the past. Since I've been here, it's not significantly larger.
Just a little bit, so, okay, very good. Thanks.
Any other questions? Do we have any public comment cards on this? No?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
I entertain a motion for resolution number 9292.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Motion passes unanimously.
Next item, number 10, annual assessments for city consolidated benefit assessment district zones for 1, 2, 4, 6, and 8.
So on these, we have a consultant on the line, and he has prepared these engineers' reports for these districts. I believe we need to ask some council members to recuse. Yeah, Rick Clark. Rick Clark from Harris Associates is on the line.
Actually, for this one, we're okay.
Oh, this one?
It's the
okay.
next two
Yeah.
we'll recuse.
Okay, so we're good on this one. Thank you, Brian.
Any questions from council? Any comment cards from public?
None received, Mr. Mayor.
And I'd entertain a motion for this item number 10, resolution 9288.
So moved.
Call the roll, please.
Motion passes unanimously.
Next item, annual assessments for cities consolidated benefit assessment district zones 3, 5, and 9.
This would be, Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Johnstone, you need to recuse yourselves for this one. This one and the next two, and then Vice Mayor Smith, you're up. You'll be recused in the next round, so. Just the mayor and Councilmember Johnstone.
Vice Mayor Smith, you got it.
Right.
They reside in districts 3, 5, and 9.
3, 5, and 9.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion on number 11, assessment district.
I move that we adopt resolution number 9289.
Okay, vote.
Motion passes with 5 yeses and 2 recusals.
And then I'm recusing on this next item?
You, correct.
Okay, very good.
Just Eric and the mayor and Councilmember Johnstone, so we're down to 4 now. What's that? Want to take it?
So we're
I can
on-
kick it off. I can introduce the item if you like. All right, so this will be item number, what is this?
9290.
Annual assessments for the city's consolidated landscape lighting maintenance assessment district zones 1, 4, 6, 11, 13, 16, and 18. Correct.
Motion passes with 4 yeses and 3 recusal.
Yep, everyone come back in now.
Okay.
Okay. What item are we on now?
13.
13. Wow, you guys are busy, doing business here. All right, item number 13, annual assessments, consolidated landscape and lighting maintenance assessment district zones 2, 3, 5, 7 to 10, 12, 14, 15, and 17. And who needs to recuse themselves here?
You're all good for this.
Hey, we're all good.
I move that we adopt resolution number 9291.
Call the roll.
Oh,
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you all. Item number 14, annual sanitary sewer service to be levied on the 24-25 tax roll.
That's me. I just want to let you know that this one and the last 4 will be coming back to you as a public hearing in the next council meeting. So this is our annual sanitary sewer service. Need to place it on the tax roll. Usually we haven't had to do a public hearing for this in the last 5 years, but we had rate increase. So every time there's a rate increase, we need to do a public hearing. So I have the rates listed in the staff report. Just looking for council to authorize the mayor to sign a resolution.
Any questions on this? I entertain a motion.
Second.
Call roll, please.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, item number 15, letter of support for the Marysville Disaster Declaration. The letter here supports the Marysville City's disaster declaration. Part of the reason that they asked us for it is I did attend their the special meeting for the disaster, and I shared with them some of the lessons learned that Oroville had from having a smaller scale, but a large business burn down and not take care of it right away. I gave the example of the Purdue Furniture Fire where we removed the building during firefighting efforts, and that was a big plus to the community. They are in a mess, just frankly that, and I think I wanted to get the council's weigh in on a support letter for their disaster declaration.
Absolutely.
I did share that it's not just the Marysville issue, it's also a region issue because many of our people are having to reroute themselves around the community, and I can't tell you the problems their businesses are having there. It is huge, and so I wanted the council to weigh in on this, so I'll give you that opportunity.
Tore through Gridley.
That, and Yuba City is very well impacted. Their council came and talked about it at that meeting. So I don't know where they're going. Last I heard, the mayor is in constant communication from Marysville with me about the issues, and they're now at a point where it's somewhere around 6 or 7 million to remove the building.
Sure,
And
easy.
that was with the asbestos problem. So had they burned it down, it would have been simpler, but that's a different process, so. Just looking for
direction?
the council to support the letter, helping them declare the state of emergency.
I move that we support the letter.
Call roll, please. Thank you all. Public communication, hearing of non-agenda items. Do we have any non-agenda items on the public cards?
I do not. I have one remaining for future agenda items.
Any future agenda items from council?
I did mention in our public comments up front about perhaps looking at the feeding the cat issue.
Okay.
So at some point we can,
Yeah.
you know.
Gotcha.
How about that gateway?
Any other items from council? Councilman Riggs? Oh, excuse me, Councilman Weber. Sorry.
Just preferred local contractor.
It's on
ordinance.
there, I swear. We talked about it.
Councilman Riggs.
Mr. Ring, I heard you express that you would be bringing back to council information regarding fireworks. And I just wanted to make sure,
Yes.
because that's on my list.
Got it. Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
go ahead.
We do have one public comment card from Bill Spear
Oh,
on this.
Mr. Spear, come on up, please.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council. I would like to ask for the Business Improvement District ordinance to be brought back up for a review. I'm bringing this to you before I start gathering signatures to abolish the ordinance, but I would much rather it be fixed. When they presented the ordinance to the city council, there was a big packet of what they were promising. When we got the ordinance, it was a paragraph and left out all of the things they were promising. I don't think it's very fair for the people to have to go stand up and start getting signatures when what was promised is not what was delivered. Everybody here knows that there's issues with the downtown business district, and I think it's very important for us to have a healthy business improvement district. I don't think abolishing it's the way to do it. I think it needs fixed. They're not fixing it within themselves, and it's been getting more and more worse. And it's I pay in our businesses $1,250. It was more, but we had to close a couple of our businesses, and we're assessing if we have to close another one fairly soon. But if you guys could reevaluate it, look at what was promised, they should have to have an annual vote like they promised. It shouldn't be the members going in and complaining and having to go knock on each door. But I'm willing to start doing that. But I'm asking for you guys who passed the ordinance to relook at it and say, can we fix this and make it work fairly for everyone? Can we since it was a new ordinance and we've never had one before, since the city is collecting the money, I believe it's the city's responsibility to make sure that it's a good ordinance, that it's a successful downtown business district. One of the issues, and it's such a little amount of money that they get to try to do all the things that they promised, it's basically impossible. I would think that if the city could come up with a way to also help fund it, to get it enough money to operate and function like a business improvement district should, I think it would benefit all the businesses downtown. I think it hurts our whole city having a dysfunctional district downtown with all the bickering and all the stuff that they're not doing. They should do it upright and right. Since the city collects the money, I think it's the city's responsibility. I don't think it should be mine.
Thank you, sir. Okay, any other future agenda items or no public cards?
Nope.
We do have some correspondence. I'll just mention the Pioneer Union Elementary notice, the petition to the council, and Butte County mosquito abatement information provided. With that all in completing the minute, I will adjourn this meeting to August 6th, 2024 at 4 p.m. Thank you all. We appreciate